My lecture was about voters' reactions or attitudes towards corruption. More precisely, what I had in mind is to address the paradox of corruption as a very unpopular thing all over the globe. However, paradoxically, we have several very popular corrupt politicians. So how come voters keep voting for corrupt politicians? So in order to address this question, I presented 4 complementary papers that have been published lately. The first one addressed this question, trying to see the extent to which the audit court's decisions to reject mayor's account in Brazil had an effect on mayor's re-election. And I found a very interesting result saying that about 20% of mayors involved in corruption did not get re-elected. However, when I control for public expenditure, I found that there is a threshold, there is a moment in which this negative impact simply vanishes, which suggests that voters make a kind of trade-off between corruption and the public benefits the incumbent mayor offered to them. In addition to this point, I also addressed this question related to the role of ideology, to see the extent to which the ideological connection of voters with a corrupt politicians could be sufficient for them to keep voting for corrupt politicians. And I found exactly that. I found that the more voters are ideologically connected, both economically speaking and socially speaking, with a corrupt politicians, the higher the probability that they will keep voting for them. And the third paper, I addressed the question of, actually it's a paradox between coordination, initiatives of coordinated initiatives against corruption by accountability officials such as judge, public prosecutors and federal police, and impunity. So there is a trade-off because the more coordinated the action of those accountability officials, the higher the likelihood that the individual rights would be violated by the risk of collusion of those accountability officials. So I found exactly this trade-off also in the case of Brazil, when I did an experimental survey manipulating the Lava Jato's operation, the car wash operation that took place in Brazil, showing that left-wing voters who see the Lava Jato as one way to prosecute his main leader, who is Lula, and position against coordinated actions, and the right-wing voters voted in favor of this coordinated action. And finally, the final study that I presented was related to the trust in courts, to see the extent to which courts' decision and punishing and convicting a politician that is loved by some voters and hated by others, if they impact on the confidence that those voters would have on the courts. And the evidence suggested by this experimental survey suggests that the extent to which courts impose judicial sanctions to loved politicians, and the smaller the confidence of those voters to the court's decision, and vice versa. So the extent to which voters acquit loved politicians, the higher the trust that those voters are going to have in favor of the court. This is a tremendous program. It's an opportunity for both for faculty members and also for students to interact and to get engaged in research questions and to exchange experiences and ideas. And I'm sure that both students and faculty members would benefit very much from this experience.